Hey, wow, how are you?
Um, it's been cold. I am,
Yeah, you look like you're in a
I've
nice
got a
like
scarf and everything.
yeah. Where
Yeah,
are you?
I am in Indianapolis,
Oh,
Indiana right now,
oh.
and it is sort of cold.
Yeah, it must be. Yeah, there was some blizzard coming, you said like a week ago.
Yeah, we got last week we got uh, gosh, uh, 2 feet of snow, I think.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
So
Yeah.
that was yeah, that's right. It hit us. It hit us here in Indianapolis.
Hmm.
Then about 3 days later, we got another one.
Wow.
So it
Yeah.
was, yeah, quite the interesting weather
Mhm,
week, I have to
mhm,
say.
mhm. Yeah. Well, here in Japan, I'm in Kyoto this week,
Uh huh.
and it's beautiful.
Oh,
And
wait,
yeah,
it's what?
it's beautiful.
Okay, okay.
The weather is warming up. It's a bit chilly, but it's becoming a little bit more comfortable. And yeah, I see not cherry blossoms yet, but plum trees are
Oh,
starting to bloom here. So
that's
yeah,
lovely.
yeah, it's lovely. Yeah.
Yeah, my
Yes.
parents took me to Washington D.C. every spring to see the cherry blossoms on the Washington Mall that were
Hmm.
a gift from the government of Japan.
Yeah. I hear it's beautiful over there as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm so excited for our guest today. Our guest is a wonderful, wonderful drummer and also educator and a composer as well. His name is Clayton Cameron.
Hmm.
And he's been a wonderful friend of mine and also played tennis with me. So
I'm
a
still
great
mad
tennis
about
player.
that. You've been promising to play tennis with me
Yeah, and
for actual
we can
years.
see the tennis court from our office, almost, right?
We never use them, but yeah,
Yeah,
we've got 30 tennis courts
right,
right outside our office,
right.
and yet
Yeah,
we don't do that.
yeah. Well, instead, I play tennis with Clayton.
You know what that means, everybody out there? She's scared.
Oh, Clayton is so good.
I know. I've talked to him about tennis. He's the real deal. He plays.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a player.
Yeah, but anyway, he is also known as a brush master,
The brush master.
the brush master.
Yeah, not a brush master. Get it right.
Excuse me, the.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, we'll talk to him about his uh, legendary video on brush technique and his book,
mhm, mhm,
um, and his amazing career playing with artists like Tony Bennett and Sammy Davis Jr. and on and on and on. Yeah, he's just had an amazing career, and I don't mean had in the past tense. He is having an amazing career, as well as obviously being a respected pedagogue in the field. So yeah, and it's great. Every week we well, not every week, but every time we do this, it's been about every other week now, but we're just talking to so many different types of artists and just seeing all these different possibilities for
mhm.
what you can do in the world of music, whether it's Spanish guitar or music therapy or composition or touring with Tony Bennett. It's kind of cool that we're getting all these different people to come and talk to us. So very excited about that.
Mhm. Great.
So,
So, would you like to bring him in?
yeah, I think now feels like an excellent time to do that. So let's bring in Clayton Cameron. Hey, how are you?
Well, hello, hello.
It's good to see you. I mean, I've only met you once, I think, and it was Chika and I were playing out at UCLA.
That's right. Yeah, that was really a killing little concert.
Yeah.
Yeah, you had that was right in the music building over at UCLA, and you guys did a concert right there in our what we would call our green room.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
packed with people and students and stuff. Yeah, it was fantastic.
Yeah, that was fun. And then we went to a nice little wine bar after and hung. And yeah, that was a great time. Yeah, I had a good time talking to you about music and all sorts of stuff. And of course, tennis, which we're gonna get into later here as well. I'm sure you watched the Australian and probably have your opinions.
Yeah. Listen, Naomi Osaka, baby.
Love her.
She is unfriggin' believable.
Yeah.
I'm so happy for her and her family and Japan, and how she represents all people. She's just fantastic.
Yeah. No, love Naomi Osaka. She's fantastic. I'm a little bent on Djokovic. He's great tennis player. Not my favorite person, but
he's
you can separate the two, right?
He's kind of more of the if it were a movie, he would be more of an antagonist than a protagonist.
Yeah, that's right. No,
but he might be the villain you love to hate.
I was going to say, if it's a Rocky movie, he's Apollo Creed or the Russian guy.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But he's so darn good. He's so darn good.
Right. So, first thing that we usually talk to people about here is obviously the last year, coming up on a year, the lives of everybody around the world has changed, but us musicians, especially those of us who are used to traveling a lot and playing live and teaching maybe at a university in person, all of that stuff, all of that has changed dramatically. I'm wondering first, how you doing? How are you getting by? Two, how are you staying active? How are you staying creative in this? I keep not wanting to call it a lockdown, but that is more or less what it is, right?
Yeah. Well, I'm doing well, thank you. I've been fortunate. I haven't had any issues. I've been pretty safe. My 15-year-old son and I live together, and I have a 21-year-old daughter, or 20-year-old daughter in college, soon to be 21. And so my kids are good, so I'm good. I'm healthy and all that. So, and in terms of COVID, dealing with that, it's one of those things. Even what we do already in terms of writing music, the thing that's missing obviously is the live playing. For some of us, who may not write or do a lot of projects, I imagine it's just horrendous. For me, it hasn't really been like that. I've been trying to finish up a book I've been writing for a while, which is based on a TED Talk that I did called Arithmetic, and called Perfect Time. So it's given me a lot of time to try to finish that up, and and I've been writing. I just finished a record called COVID Style, where everybody records their own parts. But it sounds pretty good. If I said to you, does it sound like we played in different rooms and all of that? You might not be able to tell. But it came out really well. I got some great artists on it. My friend and partner who I did the record with, his name is Johnny Valentino. And then we got people like Jimmy Haslip. He plays on the whole record. One of my favorite pianists with Tony Williams for many years, Alan Pasquale, on piano. A nice young trumpet player named Will Artope. So so it's cool. It's really, really fun. And so we just had a rehearsal today because we're going to perform some of the stuff live for the first time on Friday. So
wow. Yeah, you must be looking forward to that. I haven't played live with another musician since what Chika, February? Mark?
Yeah, and that has to be with an asterisk, because there's not going to be an audience, in terms of the feedback, immediate energy that you get. You're basically, it's kind of like playing in a studio where everybody plays, and then you're like, okay, I think that was good,
Right.
But in terms of the energy of an audience and all that, yeah, it'll be great when we get back to that again. It's everyone is starving for that. Obviously, everyone, the audience and the players and the theaters and all the venues and so it's just I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful that maybe by fall we'll be doing some other things.
Yeah.
Have you heard anything in terms of when we can have live like audiences? In the US.
Yeah, there is no there is no dates in terms of that sort of thing. What I'm waiting for is for the okay for truly the true okay for schools to open up with teachers being vaccinated and that sort of thing. Once that happens, I'll start feeling a lot better, like we're on our way, because to me, it's the children that are suffering so much. I have like I said, I have a young son who's 15 and in high school. It's just the worst thing to have children, anybody, but let alone children who are so used to being with their friends and, each other over and, talking trash and having a good time and going to class and all of that. So for them, once
I can relate. Yeah.
Once they get back, I'll be like, yes,
And it gets them out of your house. Well, I've got a 12-year-old.
Selfish parts of that, but yes.
Yeah, I've got a 12-year-old who just started middle school, and where I live up in Ventura County, and it's not quite as bad, numbers wise as LA County. So they were able to open up with a blended hybrid mixed model, whatever they call it. So he goes to school a little bit in the morning, then we pick him up, and then he does the rest of it online the rest of the day. But I didn't even think twice when they said, "Do you want to bring him back?" I'm like, "Yeah." They're wearing masks, they're being socially distant, they have plenty of ventilation. It's fine. They haven't had any problems there. But and it looks like in California, phase 1B for what they're calling educational sector, which we would all qualify for since we all have university jobs. We should be able to start getting those needles in arms as well. And I'm very much looking forward to that.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been doing some teaching online. I'm starting to get used to it, but every time I can't enter into a Zoom room or something, I just feel like panicking. It's like you're stuck in traffic. When you can't get into your Zoom, it's like being stuck in traffic. And which way do I go to get off the freeway?
That's right. Wait, launch meeting, add to calendar. No, wait, there's a password. What's the password?
Oh my gosh.
And meanwhile, everybody's waiting on you, and then you get there and you're like, sorry. And it's that's the new 405, isn't it?
It actually is the new 405. It's getting into your Zoom. It's that sort of internet traffic jam. And so, like even today, I was I do this outreach program called From Bop to Bebop, teaching elementary school kids about music from the Baroque period up until modern. And so,
what did you say? From Bach to Bebop?
Yeah, Bach to Bebop.
That is a very catchy title.
Bebop. Yeah,
it's I'm impressed. That's a good one.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't come up with it. It's from Mitch Glickman, who runs a program SAO, and which is Symphonic Jazz Orchestra organization. So anyway, but it's a good program, and the kids really get into it. And man, no matter how many times I go in and I've done it, sometimes the code and the password don't work, even though they work just, and so then you're calling the teacher, and this is like, I feel like it's the closest I come to having a nervous breakdown. I just, at least the freeway, I kind of know the freeway, I was like, okay, I know not to get on there. But with this, it's like, you have to get on that one freeway. And if it's blocked, then it's up the creek. So anyway.
Yeah, I think it's that any musician who's been doing gigs for any amount of time, kind of have that attitude. It's like I tell my students, I said, look, if you're early, you're on time. If you're on time, you're late. If you're late, you're fired. That's the way it works. So we sort of feel like,
Oh, no.
I want to get there a little bit early so that I'm ready to go when, just the feeling of being late is, I don't know. It's
and it's children waiting for you. So that's just
you got the guilt factor in there as well.
Yeah,
I'm letting them down.
Yeah,
exactly. It's going to scar them for life. They're going to think we don't care. Yeah, I know.
So but as soon as I get on, I have this thing I call bongo break. So I'm sitting around. So I break into my bongo.
Are we gonna jam?
Bongo break. Bongo.
Should we jam?
I've got my weird little practice guitar here.
Just jump
you can't hear it. That's pointless.
What is that?
Yeah, so this is called a silhouette practice guitar.
Oh my God.
And it comes apart. And it breaks down into something that looks disturbingly like maybe a long gun case that you carry through the airport.
Oh,
did you bring that?
Yeah, no, it's a little. It's just a practice guitar.
Wow.
And it's called Silhouette. They're out of Eugene, Oregon, and I've endorsed them since maybe 2000, something like that. I even played their booth at the NAMM show a couple of times.
So I have a question about that.
Yeah.
So my son, so he's taking guitar lessons now, and he's been doing so for about 2 years, but he finally got a really good teacher. And so I knew nothing about approaches to whatever approach to guitars and all that. Now I'm learning more than I ever thought I would know. And with that thing that you have, does it simulate the difficulty of doing bar chords?
Yeah.
So you have to push down and all of that?
Do you want a bar chord lesson right now? do we have time?
I'm going to use it, but maybe
I can totally do this. I'm so game. So in my book, available now.
Yes.
Let me get the camera angle here right. All right. So in my book, I've got an exercise called Ben's Bar Chords.
Yeah.
And which I stole from a teacher of mine. But you want to be as close to the fret wire as possible, not back, because you get more leverage that way. And you want to be a little bit on the side of your finger, so you roll out a bit. But have them just do 2 strings. Right? So you just do 2 strings. And when that starts feeling comfortable, do 3.
Okay.
And then you can do 4, 5, 6. It's like weightlifting. So, you get used to 2, and then you get used to 3. And you got to make sure your thumb is in the right place, not creeping up over. And then when that starts feeling good, then you can move it down. And then the ultimate is when you're down here on the 1st fret. And then after that, you can play Black Sabbath.
Why is that the ultimate? Why is it? Why is that the ultimate up there?
Because the string tension is heaviest, strongest, the closer you get to the nut. It's looser the more you get to the center, like a high wire, in the middle. That's where it's loosest, right? So here the string tension is not so much, and the frets are smaller.
I get it.
But then when you get down here, if you can do that, you can play bars anywhere.
Yeah, there's less resistance. I see. So now to give full time to everyone. Now Chika has to tell us about her saxophone.
Yes. And I should tell you that my son has 0 interest in learning the guitar, and he's learning the saxophone. So I have learned more about the saxophone in recent years than I ever thought I would learn. And so, yeah, the saxophone to me is what the guitar is to you.
Yeah, there you go. Go.
Okay, Chika, tell us something cool about the saxophone that'll make everybody's lives better.
Now, you know what? I just did a little arrangement, and I have to say I've been pretty slacked on knowing all the ins and outs of saxophones. But what I'm really most embarrassed about is I didn't realize that the range when written is exactly the same for alto, for soprano, for tenor, and for baritone. Saxophone from the B flat all up to the A, the written. I didn't know that, and it made it so much easier when I was doing this arrangement. I said, how come I didn't know this before? See, you can always learn something if you're paying attention. So, and I haven't been paying attention.
Yeah, and it looks complicated, saxophone.
It's complicated.
No, it's not. It's basically like a recorder.
Yeah. You know, I would have loved to have been around when Adolph Sax just said, you know, the trumpets, they just got too much on the woodwinds. And I want something that's going to project, but has the, you know, sensibility of, you know, the clarinet or something like. I would just love to have been how this guy just like figured it out like he did. This is incredible.
Yeah, and to completely make a new instrument, you know, it's
it's like he was looking at a trumpet and a clarinet and said, "I've got an idea."
Have you ever, either one of you, ever been to the Museum of Instruments in Arizona?
Yes, we went together.
Actually. Yeah, we were. When were we there, Chika? Last spring?
Yeah, not last year because we were all gone,
back in
the 2019.
Musical Instrument Museum.
Yeah, I was doing a concert there, and it just, you know, took, you know, they just got, you know, they were closed, so they just let us walk around. Yeah. And it was, you know, fantastic. And I saw a little piece on the, I forget the two guys. They were both like CEOs of some. You remember the company that they were CEOs of? Is some famous. Anyway, but you know, obviously very wealthy guys, and they were like, they loved traveling to museums, which is one of the things. Actually, when I was on tour with Tony Bennett loved to go to museums. You know, art, you know, like the, you know, portrait galleries and things like that. And these two guys loved to go to museums, and they would always critique and say, you know, what did you like, what didn't you like, and then they came up with the idea, like, you know, what's missing? Wouldn't it be nice to have an instrument museum? I mean, that's just, you know, so they had the means to put it together. But, you know, there are, you know, different displays of instruments. I know, like in London, I forget which museum it is, but they had this huge collection of musical instruments and saxophones and different, you know, instruments for over ages. So anyway.
Yeah, the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York has a wonderful instrument display up on the second floor. I go there all the time, and
right.
They've got Segovia's guitars and things like that, or, you know, Hard Rock Cafe in Vegas. Go there; they've got all the, you know, paraphernalia from, you know, all the great.
Smithsonian has a lot of interesting, you know, Gershwin's, you know, piano, the player piano, it kind of works like it disengages to change keys, like because he only played in C. Did you know that? Did you know that?
I did not. No.
Yeah, he. That's why the piano. It's just like having a cape. What's it called? Capo.
Capo, yeah.
So it's like a capo for piano.
Oh, I got you. So he could do the same thing, but the keys would change.
Exactly.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah. So
that's one of the things that guitar players, especially like singer-songwriter types, you learn a couple of chords and move your capo around, and you can play in all different keys, and you don't have to learn anything new.
Right, man. I just stay in my zone, baby.
I don't. Capos confuse me. I get disoriented. I prefer to make it hard.
Unfortunately, because you know too much.
I've never been accused of that before, but I will take that.
You know when you can't use a capo.
You mentioned Tony Bennett, so I got to go there now. So, you know, your bio reads kind of like a Hall of Fame kind of thing. Tony Bennett, Sammy Davis Jr. I mean, these aren't just musicians; these are American icons we're talking about here. I got to ask you, you know, you must have some just amazing stories, or, you know, something you heard from one of those guys, or I don't know, just something we don't know, or
listen.
I mean, what's that like? You know, and I do want to acknowledge that, you know, Tony Bennett recently coming out with, suffering from Alzheimer's disease. And that's that. I lost my grandfather to Alzheimer's and my father to Alzheimer's. So that, when he came out with that to raise public awareness, I really appreciate that. Yeah, I always loved him, but when he did that, even more.
Yeah, I was with Tony for 13 years, touring, and did about as many records and won about as many Grammys as that, about 13 Grammys, including Album of the Year for, I was going to say Steppin' Out. Steppin' Out was before it, but Tony Bennett Unplugged, which was a live record, which was the only record ever in Grammy history that won a Grammy being a live record. All records have been studio records.
Is that right? No, there are no live.
No live.
Really?
George Benson was nominated, but he didn't win.
Wow, I did not know that.
On Broadway, that great record he did with Harvey Mason and I think Nathan East, and But anyway, that on Broadway record was killing. But he didn't win the Grammy. So I imagine my shock. I was at the Grammys that night because we performed. So I think we were up against Bruce Springsteen, and it was like a lot of heavy. And so the thing about the record industry is that those record labels really put in a lot of stock on Grammys, so that because it's a big marketing tool. Yeah. And so they really got pissed when Tony Bennett won because it wasn't supposed to happen. They thought the industry would, vote for their guy, I guess, it's almost like an entitlement kind of thing. So when we won, there was a commission put together to review. I don't know if it's still going on, but to review all Album of the Year nominations.
Wow.
Yeah, after Tony Bennett won. So after we won that. So yeah, it was a great night. I remember it was 1994. And I was upstairs I was back in the dressing room, not thinking we were going to win. And then next thing you know, they're saying Tony Bennett. And so we were like, what? So ran downstairs to the wings of the stage. And yeah, it was fantastic. And, and Tony's such a great guy. And it's kind of like he's been there, done that in a way where, he was appreciative, but it was kind of like he was just being himself. He never changed anything. When we did the Steppin' Out record, the Fred Astaire, that was the record that the tune Steppin' Out was actually put in circulation on MTV, which was a big deal at that time. MTV was the bomb, if you will, and so mainly rock and roll acts and pop acts were on MTV. So they didn't have funk and soul and all of that, and certainly not any traditional what we call traditional music in Tony's Grammy category. And so for him to get into that circulation on MTV was huge. His son had produced a video and all that, fancy video on the tune Steppin' Out. And then after that, it was just like sky's the limit. I mean, I don't think I was ever home, but maybe 2 weeks out of the year after.
Wow.
Period,
Yeah. I remember. Yeah, that was definitely in heavy rotation.
Yeah. So he was, became very, very buddy. But what I like about him, many of the artists that I work with, is that it was like showbiz was their life. It wasn't like they, like a Sammy Davis Jr. and Tony Bennett and Sinatra, all those guys. It was a part of their life. It wasn't like they would show up and just wish to be idolized. Sammy used to crack me up. Sammy Davis Jr. used to crack me up when we were on tour with him, Sinatra, and Dean Martin.
Wow.
Sammy would come.
That's
I remember
Rat Pack. Wow.
Yeah. We were on tour in it's in 87 and 88. So 87 was the beginning of the tour. And so, we were doing arenas. So we did like the Forum, we did the, Superdome, we did the Oakland Arena, things like that. So we were playing all these huge arenas. And so finally we got to Chicago after about, I don't know, a couple of weeks. And so we played the Chicago Theater, which was an intimate theater of like maybe 3,000. I'm not sure what it holds, but it can't be more than 3,000. While we're coming from these arenas where you're playing 20,000. I mean, and they were packed, and so it was fantastic. And so I remember Sammy, he had that really, really fiery, good spirit, and so we came off the first night, and he used to have me do a duet with him, and he would do this whole medley of tunes, and he would just kill it, and then we'd get a standing ovation. And so anyway, so he finished his part of the show. The order of the show was Dean Martin. So I would play for Dean when he came out, and Sammy would come out and do his thing, and then intermission, and then Sinatra come out, and then all three of them. And so Sammy comes off one night, the first night, and he really killed it. The audience was going crazy. And he says, "Now let him follow that," And, of course it was in good spirit, but it just cracked me up that he knew he killed it. And he was, it was all about the audience. It was about, he could throw, listen, this man was more talented than anyone I'll probably ever encounter. He could do so many things well. And, and so, for him to go out and really feel good about a show, he was killing, that he brought it, and it was, so I just feel very, very honored and blessed to have worked with him from, it was 82 until he died in 1990.
Yeah.
Wow.
No, I remember when he passed, and I think they had helicopter coverage of his funeral in LA, and
I was one of the pallbearers.
He said Forest Hills, right?
I think it's not Forest Hills. I don't know what they call it actually.
Yeah,
I forget. But he, it was it was a very, very sad day. And I remember I was one of the pallbearers, and I was riding in the, in the procession, and it's like we had an entourage of 13 guys. 6 were musicians, the rest were tech kind of thing, and valet and all that. And so some of us were, I guess about 6 of us were in one of the limousines in the procession. And then, like you said, there was helicopters, and it was just like the strangest thing. All of a sudden you hear these helicopters, and we kind of, look out the window, and it's just like, it was not just a helicopter. It was like a line of helicopters.
That's right.
From all these different, news media, stations and stuff. So
that's big. Yeah. You mentioned Sinatra. Yeah. Chika and I, we just did a record over at Capitol in Studio A with Al Schmidt. And we heard some pretty good Sinatras.
You better not have had drums, because I'll be very upset.
What's that?
You better not have had drums. I'll be
no. It's just the two of us.
All right, good.
Just the two of us. But Al Schmidt was on the session, and told us a lot of really cool Sinatra
stories. Yeah.
Yeah, Al's the best, man. Have you read his book?
Oh,
of course, yeah. We all got copies of his book, and he signed them, and. Yeah, for sure. We were even with him at the NAMM show last January when he was signing copies, and he was like, that was his first NAMM show, I think. He was like, NAMM is nuts. It was crazy. He was just trying to get him around there, get him through. He's 88 years old at the time, 89 now, I think.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, no, Al is fantastic. I feel really, really. I mean, I've worked with him in different occasions and stuff, but I'm really happy that one thing is documented, and it doesn't mention me, but in his book he has some diagrams of some sessions that he did, and talking about miking and how he does. So one of them is at the Sony Studios, which was the I guess they call it the Oz studio, where they did all the Wizard of Oz recording with the orchestra there. And so I'm on a session for a record called Story Tones by Neil Young. So it's a Neil Young record. And was Nico Bolas on that session?
Yeah. Okay. It's all coming together now. I get it. Yeah.
Nico was the producer. And so
Nico was our producer when we were working with Al.
Well, there you go. See?
Man, small world, right?
You're in good hands. So in his book, he has the layout of that session. And so every time I look at my book, I just like put like me. That's me. I was like in the far, way back in the little booth, as far as you can go. It's like the outskirts of town almost. But to see that in his book, I was like, yeah, I was there.
Yeah, Al's got a whole chapter on Nico in that book. He was actually Chika. Nico, I don't know if you picked up on it, but Nico actually paid Al for those books and gave them to us.
Oh.
Yeah. So Nico bought the books for us, then had Al sign them.
He's a great guy. It doesn't surprise me.
Yeah. No, Nico. I did my second solo record with Nico back in 2005, and he's been my go-to producer ever since. So
yeah.
That was awesome. So you're when I look at you online, and when I talk to my drummer friends, which I have many, the term brush master keeps coming up, and apparently your video, was it in '91 on brush technique? Am I getting that year right by any chance?
Yeah, the Living Art of Brushes came out I released it in 1990.
1990, and then you followed that up with a book
on VHS. I'll have you know, there was no
VHS.
It was VHS. There wasn't no DVD. Okay.
Yeah.
Would come. This just to show you how ancient I am.
No. Man, I'm not far behind you. My friends and I used to buy Hot Licks videos on VHS. We get Steve Lukather and Yngwie Malmsteen and Juan Martin and all these people, and they were like $100 each. So we couldn't afford them on our own. So like 5 of us would go in on an instructional VHS, and then we just share it.
Yeah.
And then, yell at each other because you had it too long. No, I didn't.
Yeah.
But your brush technique video and book are kind of legendary. I was wondering if you could possibly explain to two non-percussionists exactly what it was that you said that kind of changed the brush game.
Well, I'm often asked, how did you, what was your motivation, for, really taking up the brushes and, getting serious about them. And the fact of the matter was I was scared. It was totally out of fear of not being a good drummer, because I had heard coming up that, if you're going to be a good drummer, you needed to know how to play brushes, So I happened, when I was in college, I happened to be rehearsing with 2 people, and one of them was a saxophonist, and we were playing a ballad. And so, and I said, oh, okay, I'll pull out my brushes. I said, I just wanted, my thought process was I'll stay out of the way, And so the saxophonist, after the tune was over, he turned around to me and said, Clayton, you should take brushes more seriously. And he's a saxophonist. My God, go back to your corner, man.
It's like, stay in your lane.
Yeah. No, I didn't think of that way at all. I really said, oh, it really kind of, it was like a punch in the nose or something. It's like I woke up and go, oh, okay, I guess I should take them more seriously. So, so I went on this quest of listening to, as many, musicians as I could and asking questions and all of that. And nothing ever really, sticks out that satisfied me in terms of like, oh yeah, that is the guy that, I should take lessons with. There was never anything like that. And so after I graduated from college, I had a gig in Las Vegas working with a fantastic pianist by the name of Kirk Stewart. He used to be the pianist for Sarah Vaughan and many other people, and did a big record with her, live at Tivoli Gardens. It's called, beautiful record. And he sings, great singer. Unfortunately I guess he sounded too much like Nat Cole. Not that he tried, but he just sounded like Nat Cole. Then is already a Nat Cole, right? So as great as he was, he sounded like Nat. So, but anyway, it was fantastic.
Which there can be only one.
Yeah, there'll only be one, but it wasn't like he tried. It was just like that's the way he sounded. So anyway, but he was a fantastic pianist. I mean, he sounded like Oscar Peterson. So in the lounge of the Desert Inn Hotel is where we played, which is
the Desert Inn.
Yeah, it no longer exists.
I know a friend of mine got married there a week before they blew it up for a Jackie Chan movie.
Oh,
yeah,
yeah. They
that's what happened.
There was a Jackie Chan movie. I can't remember which one it was, but they blew it up for a movie, and they did the demo and didn't charge Desert Inn anything. But I love that place. Golf course and back.
Yeah. Well, the Desert Inn, was started by Bugsy Siegel back in the day.
Bugsy.
But anyway, they had a lounge in there, a nice little musical lounge that had about 3 different bands that would play 6 nights a week. And so the Kirk Stewart's band, it was a trio, we would play. Start around 9 o'clock and then you finish around 2 a.m. But each set was only 45 minutes. So you played like 3 45-minute sets stretched out over, 8 hours or so. And so one of the things that they did not allow you to do was have your music draw attention away from the gambling tables, from the blackjack tables, from the, from the pie gal, from, all of those tables, because that's why they're in business, is to keep people there and spending their money. The only time people came to the lounge really was so that after they lost their money, they'd get a drink ticket or something. And so then we would be there playing at a very low volume, right? And so if it got too loud, there was a little red light that would flash. That was like above the audience. They couldn't see it, but we could see it. So if it started flashing, that meant the band was too loud.
Oh.
So for me, I get there and I'm like, oh man, I'm so happy I'm out of college and I have a job, and I'm just happy. So I start playing and the light comes on. And I'm like, so, I got smaller sticks, oh my God, it's still coming on. So it just became this thing, where it was so uncomfortable to play. So I just finally said, you know what? I'm just going to play brushes. So I played brushes for 8 months straight without playing sticks.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. What's the term? Necessity is the mother of invention.
Yeah. That is the saying. That's how it goes.
That's a good saying.
I was forced to play brushes, and I was playing with such a fantastic group that I really had to kind of get my act together, to make it work. So I would say that those 8 months was the time that I really developed a lot of, really good fundamentals, just really became strong. Yeah. Now, but then what would happen after that is really what, I guess people would say, okay, the Brushmaster, whatever, that is something that I didn't come up with. That's, whatever people say. But I fortunately got the gig. After those 8 months, I actually started working with Sammy Davis Jr. Mm-hmm. So after, the 8 months that I worked there, I got the gig with Sammy and I started touring with Sammy Davis Jr. Now, one of the things that Sammy would often do, of course, was dance in his show.
He was a tap dancer, right?
He was a friggin' hoofer. I mean, that's how he grew up, all the stuff you see him do when he was a kid, 3 years old. There's footage of him. He's killing at 3 years old. I mean,
as a child of the 70s and 80s, I will admit that I was introduced to him on Fantasy Island and The Love Boat.
Yeah, well, makes sense.
and then did a deeper dive.
Yeah, well, he was the greatest. I'm sorry that everybody couldn't see him, but there's still stuff out there. There's a couple of I call them pirated videos because I never got paid. One is live in Germany, Sammy Davis Jr. live in Germany, and Sammy Davis Jr. live in Paris. 2 great shows. But anyway, so Sammy did a movie with Gregory Hines called Tap.
Yeah, that's a great movie.
It's a great movie,
and Gregory Hines is a real dancer too.
Gregory was fantastic. Now, Gregory is the kind of he's another one, like Sammy Davis Jr. is vaudeville, coming out of vaudeville and that circuit. Mm-hmm. Gregory Hines and his brother catch the end of that, So they're, much younger, and with their dad, their group was called Hines, and Dad. So after the wrap of that movie, Sammy had a couple of 2-week engagement in Las Vegas with Jerry Lewis at Bally's Hotel. And so Sammy invited 3 tap dancers there were several, there was a lot of tap dancers in the movie, but 3 of them came to Las Vegas and they just killed it. And it was kind of a bit, Sammy and Jerry opened the show and they're singing a song and then they trade fours tap dancing. Sammy does the real deal. Jerry Lewis does Nutty Professor tap dancing, and gets lots of laughs and all of that. And so Sammy, incredulously says to Jerry, what are you doing? And Jerry's like, what? I'm tap dancing. And he goes, no, that's not tap dancing. I'll show you tap dancing. And he gestures to stage right, and then out comes three hoofers: Bunny Briggs, Sandman Sims, and Arthur Duncan. So that was an unbelievable 2 weeks for me, because I watched these guys, including Sammy, every night do what they call their combinations. They had all these different combinations. Like for us as musicians, you have your scales, and then you play scales on certain chords, and for drummers they have rudiments and different combinations, that sort of thing. And so tap dancers have what they call combinations, And so I would listen to these guys and I would go, oh my God, that was killing. What was that? What was that rhythm? And so I would go back, I would literally I'd have a little pad in my room, and I go back and I go, okay, let me see. So he went. I try to figure out a way to emulate them, And Sandman Sims is the guy who would slip slide his tap. So he might be tapping, and then he would sweep. So it was just so infectious to see them do that. And so I would go back in my room every friggin' night after listening to them and try to emulate. And so, and then Gregory Hines came 2 nights on the second week. He surprised Sammy Davis Jr. So even Gregory, it was like killing. In fact, one of the TED Talks I do, I talk about that. It's called TEDx Manhattan Beach, Clayton Cameron, TEDx Manhattan Beach. And I talk about the tap dancers and their influence as I'm playing. So, but anyway, with that said, it took me about 4 years to develop the techniques in order to really play what I was hearing, because I didn't have the technique to do what they were doing. I had to figure it out. And so, so it took, I honestly say it took about 4 years of just doing it and figuring out and messing up and going to gigs, trying to do stuff and like, oh, that sucked, just keep the time, man, that sort of thing. And so that, in combination with the 8 months of just straight playing, and then those guys, it's basically kind of like a quiet storm. They just kind of came together. It wasn't something that I planned, but it's something that I just really dug and loved. And even to this day, I'm still like, just coming up with stuff, because anything that I can emulate anything with the brushes, but it's going to sound different because they're different. So I can play. You can play a beat. You can say, do dot, do dot, and if I take the brushes, so it's gonna sound completely different than, even though I'm playing I could be playing the exact same rhythm. It's the sounds,
Yeah, I can see the connection between, because tap dancers. Although I love the term hoofers much better. I'm going to start using that. Sometimes it's like pure percussion, but there's also a lot of scraping. So I could see how.
And they use different parts of their foot. They use like the toe. They use the heel.
Yeah.
Down.
It's not just hit.
No, so it's not just one thing. And so that's what was really opening up my mind, was like all the different things that you can do. So, like for me, I designed this brush so that I could play the back end of it.
Right.
It's not like twirling a stick, because the stick is wood on each side. But if I do this,
right, more colors there.
Yeah, so it's just exactly right. So it's another color, and you can get so many colors with the brushes, if you will.
And you get to look cool spinning it.
Yeah, well,
you gotta look cool. Come on.
That's what is it? A byproduct.
I have always been jealous of drummers, because they always look the coolest because they can do the stuff, and guitar players were a little bit better. Saxophonists, sorry, There's just
Well,
no.
we're usually at the front, though.
Well, I don't know. You got to find a way to spin the saxophone around here.
I'm not buying the woe is me. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Right. Guitar players turning up their amps.
Well, being a classical guitar player, it is woe was me.
Make the guitar faces, all that stuff.
My guitar face is usually. Oh no! There's that scale. Hey, we've got a question from. It's funny when you mentioned Desert Inn, and I said I went to a wedding at the Desert Inn before they imploded it, and the person whose wedding I went to just asked you a question, and he said, in Vegas or elsewhere, did you ever play with a guy named Chips Davis? Chips Davis. I don't know if he played around Vegas or what, but
tennis I don't know. I don't recall the name. Sorry.
Oh, okay. That answers that. So music is awesome, and that's why we're here. But the really important thing to talk about is tennis. So, I guess
my hobby. Yes, my favorite hobby.
It's just it's interesting to me that my musician friends, they, especially soloists, but guitar players, it's either golf or tennis or both. And I guess I'm wondering, what do you think the connection is there? Because I am equally obsessed with tennis. I've taken 2 lessons a week. I was playing USTA round robins on Saturday mornings.
Have you seen a connection between the drumming or the brushing and the tennis?
Yeah, what do you is there a connection there, or is it just coincidence?
Well, I knew nothing really about tennis other than that there were some famous tennis players like Arthur Ashe and John McEnroe, that sort of thing. But a friend of mine, when I was touring with Sammy Davis Jr. in the 80s, early on on the gig, he said, Clayton, you're traveling to all these nice places. You should take up tennis. Then it gives you something to do. Because at that time, I was playing racquetball and I hated it. And you couldn't play it everywhere you went. And so I would take up running. So I was a pretty good runner and actually did, some 10Ks and stuff. And, when I was out on the road and did really, really well. But, it's kind of hit and miss, And so
racquetball is bad for your wrists.
Oh, I just hated racquetball for so many reasons. One, it was indoors. And then 2, I would always run into walls and hurt myself, So
the acoustics are pretty cool, though. You got to admit that.
Yeah. So if I was playing some music in there, I might be all right. But but so I didn't really take to it. So anyway, so I took up his challenge in a way, and I happened to be in Hollywood, Florida, and we arrived the night before. Then the next day, I opened up my window, and there's these beautiful tennis courts, these green clay tennis courts, and
green clay. Oh.
Yeah, and so he told me, he said, look, he said, you don't have to know anything, just have some sneakers and shorts and they'll give you a racket. So I said, okay. So I went over and I took my first tennis lesson and I loved it. And I remember he gave me this oversized Prince head racket, right? This Prince racket. Mm-hmm. And so I took that racket, and then the next place I would take a lesson would be at the Desert Inn with a guy by the name of Marty Hennessy. He's still in Vegas. Great tennis coach, great guy. And so I took a lesson with Marty, but that's where the story really begins. Because when I was leaving my lesson with Marty, this group of kids were coming in, and they were, quite boisterous. They were teenagers, and so they just seemed kind of full of themselves. So I said, it looked like they would go out to hit with Marty. So one of them was. And so I said, I'm going to stick around and watch this. So we're all sitting behind the baseline on the other side of the fence. Mm. And the kid turns around and goes, and Marty's left-handed, so he's serving to the ad side, which usually means the lefty can swing you out wide to your backhand. And so, which is a great serve. And so the kid says, turns around to his friends, like, where do you want me to hit the ball. He's talking about
I did. It's Andre Agassi, isn't it?
Oh, don't spoil my story.
I'm sorry. My bad. I was just guessing.
Get out of the way. So he says to him, he says, where do you want me to hit the ball? Says to his friends, where do you want the ball? Hit it down the line. Hit it down the line, Andre. Hit it down the line. So, so now it's legendary. Everybody knows. But at that time, he was 15 years of age.
Wait, I'm right. It's Andre Agassi.
Right. You are right. You spoiled my story. So he steps in and he just nails this forehand on the outside down the line. And I just sat there going, that's not normal. I don't know that much about tennis, but that is not normal. So I go on the next day. And so I was on my tennis expedition. So the next day I went over to Caesar's Palace because I wanted to take a lesson with Pancho Gonzalez, the great Pancho, Mexican-American tennis champion. And so I go over to Caesar's and I signed up and everything. And I called over. And so there was a young lady behind the desk. And I said, yeah, I'm here to take my lesson with Pancho. And so she kind of gestures her eyes over to his office. And she goes, he's not in a good mood today. I wouldn't take a lesson with him. And I was like, oh, okay. All right, fine. So I just was chatting her up, right? So we were just chatting after that. And I told her about this kid I saw. He goes, oh, yeah, that's my cousin, Andre. And so she asked me what I was doing in town. I said, well, I'm here. I'm working over at Ballet's Hotel, playing with Sammy Davis Jr. over in the celebrity room. And she goes, oh, well, you should say hi to my uncle. He's the maitre d' in the, what do they call it? See, the celebrity room and the showroom. He's the maitre d' in the showroom. So I said, oh, okay. So I go over and I say, hi, Mike. Everyone called me Cece at the time. I said, I'm Cece. I'm here playing with Sammy Davis Jr. And I told him I saw your son play tennis today. Oh, you saw Andre play tennis? Oh, yeah, he's getting good. So he says to me, what are you doing tomorrow morning? And so I said, nothing. I mean, I work at night like you, because, I was on my way to work and he was working. He's the maitre d'. And he was an old school maitre d'. He's the kind, he tells people, hey, take him to table 26. And then he gets the big tip, kind of thing. It was like old school Vegas. It was just like, it's like, okay, yeah, you got table 22. Okay, put him right up front, that sort of thing. So anyway, so I went over to his house, which was way outside at that time, way outside of Vegas, because there wasn't many homes in between the strip and where his home was that he built. And he had built his tennis court in the backyard, and there was no other homes around it. And there was a big giant golf net, around the backyard. And so I took that was my third tennis lesson was with Mike Agassi, and we would get together for 2 weeks. And so it was the most incredible thing, because I really truly saw how a champion was made through his father. And he was ahead of his time. I'll just share the first words he said to me when we got on the court in his backyard. He goes, if you throw a ball into a fan, where will it go? And I went, up. You'll be eating that ball for lunch. Like that. So I had no idea what the hell he was talking about. So he explains to me, this is old tennis. He takes these long strokes. This is new tennis. Pow, 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 And so he taught me to hold the racket back and only to pronate the racket head so that it would go like this. Mm-hmm. So it was always facing the court, and then he'd have you follow through by hitting your back.
That's right.
So
there, catch it by your ear.
Yeah, but nobody was doing that at that time. No one. It was considered like, strange. In fact, what's funny, after leaving Las Vegas and traveling around the world, what I didn't realize what was happening when you hit the ball is that it really caused, quite a lot of spin, and caused the ball to, lose its shape, become really oval. And so once it hits the ground, it really jumps up. And so I remember I would be playing with people as I traveled around the world and stuff. And this kept coming up where people would say, something's on the court. The ball keeps jumping up. I had no idea that what Mike had showed me was causing that,
Yeah, top spin.
Yeah. Well, yeah, now it's common knowledge, right? But then,
that's right.
It was not. This was
Rafa hits top like 4,000 RPM or something ridiculous.
Yeah. We could talk about that too. I can tell you that's an extension of what Mike created or started.
Yeah.
Rafa added another dimension, and we can. That's a whole nother.
Yeah, I know. Bassliner, tons of top. Yeah.
But it's not that it's tons of top. It's like, how is it tons of top? How is it tons of top? We can talk about it on another show. So
I'd like to talk to you about it on a tennis court. So when I get back to LA, I think we should set something up.
Absolutely. But Chika, you got to come from Kyoto and join us. So, I'm telling you, you look out. You better look out because she's.
I'm ready. I'm ready for her. That's fine. Man, I can't believe it. An hour has already gone by, just like that.
I know.
It always, we're always like, gosh, an hour. What are we going to talk about? And then it's like, we should make this 2 hours. We don't know what we're doing. It goes by so quick.
And Clayton has so much like rich stories to talk about. About drumming, what about tennis, and
we might have to do a part 2 here with you.
Yeah.
All right. This let me know. Let me know.
Wow. Thank you, man, so much for it's a real honor. Someone who's done what you've done and worked with the people that you've worked with, and being so willing to be open with us about what all that was like. That's great for us. It's great for people interested in music. It's great for the students. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, my pleasure. Anytime. It's great to talk to both of you, and we'll all have to pick it up. Who's going to be our 4th though? Because we got to play some doubles.
You're asking me to count again, aren't you? Guitar players can't count. That's what drummers do.
Yeah, we got to get a 4th though. We got to get a 4th.
Yeah.
So we'll play some doubles.
That sounds good. Good. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Clayton.
All right.
So everybody, we'll see you next time.